Piers Morgan received some pushback in naming the alleged racist royals from Omid Scobie's Endgame, but he's pushing back against his critics even harder, saying he wanted to finish the blackmail threat posed by Harry and Meghan, and it only gets juicier from there. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor, and thanks to everybody who's been following this Endgame coverage. Like I said, we had a couple reports I wanted to get to today because a lot happened over the weekend and today on Monday. And one big one was Piers Morgan's response in why he named the so-called royal racists. He got some flack, but he is holding his ground and fighting back strongly. And he really eviscerates Omid, Meghan, and Harry in this new op-ed for the Times that I wanted to read through with you guys. It reveals a lot, and I think for news sake, it's important that this information be publicly available because I'm told it was harder for me to find, but here's the source. A lot of people were reporting on this Piers Morgan quote. Let's get to what he actually said. I was watching this morning on Thursday when I heard a startling claim where I apparently, of what I want to do the Duchess and Duke and Duchess of Sussex, he wrote an in fact, rather than him, let's hear what Omid said.
He also wrote an op-ed this week saying that they should be burned alive or something like that. So
none of that.
That's what he said, right? That's what Omid said. I did. Wow. Sounds like a very serious thing, which I should obviously lead to my instant cancellation and probable arrest for inciting violence against two beloved public figures. There's just one problem. I never said it. In fact, I wrote this at the end of a column for The Sun. We're supposed to believe Meghan and Harry are keen to build bridges with the royals and even want to spend Christmas with them at Sandringham, which seems about as likely as me being invited up there to pull a festive cracker. I can't speak for Charles, Camilla, William, or Kate. But if two close members of my family had spent the past few years trashing the rest of us on global media platforms, the only way I'd want to spend Christmas with them is if they were human chestnuts roasting on my open fire. So I was talking hypothetically and clearly jocularly about members of my own family, not Meghan and Harry. I mean, it's clearly a joke. It's clearly literary. He's clearly painting the picture of, obviously, I don't want anyone there. He doesn't want to burn them alive, but nice spin. This is something Omid does a lot, which is over-exaggerate. Those aren't the facts, but facts aren't Mr. Scobie's strong point. His new monarchy trashing book, Endgame, is at the center of a global firestorm after the Dutch version accidentally named the King and Princess of Wales as the two people who the Sussex claimed made racially charged comments about the potential skin color of their baby Archie. I've been part of that firestorm too. After deciding to tell the British public the names, I'll explain why I did. Before I do, let's examine the credibility of the heavily eyebrowed man whose book has triggered this scandal that engulfed the royals. Scobie, the heavily eyebrowed lickspittle, Scobie says he's feeling frustrated because someone else supposedly rewrote part of Endgame and inserted it into the Dutch version. Even more frustratingly, the mystery literary arsonist decided to torch his tome in the most incendiary possible manner, inserting the names of two of the most senior members of the royal family in passages that brand them racist. It's hard to think of more explosive publicity-grabbing details that could possibly have been added to a manuscript. Scobie insists he knew nothing about the episode until news broke by the Dutch journalists that read it. Nor had he ever written any draft of the book containing those offending paragraphs. In fact, I have another clip that I thought was important for us to refresh.
But for me, I can only talk about the English version of the book that I wrote and produced.
But are you upset by it, though? Are you upset by it that those names came out when it had you didn't want that to happen?
I had never submitted a book that had their names in it, so...
That's important. And there's multiple interviews where he's revealed that. He hasn't done it. So I've written dozens of... So he says, but the Dutch confirmed the names were on the pages of the manuscript she was told to translate. And just recently we learned his agent has also submitted it because he got it from Omid. So he's caught lying. Watch this morning's video. You'll learn that. Pierce goes on to say, I've written dozens of books and never heard of anything like this. Millions of authors, including Tom Bauer, no one else I know of had heard of it. So poor Omid Scobie seems to become the first author in history whose book was secretly sabotaged en route to a printer in a random foreign country. What must make all this even more frustrating for him is that the two names published are reportedly the same ones cited by Meghan in her private correspondence with Charles after her Oprah Winfrey Wine-a-thon. Scobie writes about that correspondence in the English version of the book, saying he knows the names but can't reveal them for legal reasons. Predictably, within minutes of the journalists getting their hands on the Dutch version, which was also briefly on sale in the Netherlands, word of the names spread like wildfire. That raised a dilemma for the British mainstream media. Should we report them? I decided we should. First, because it seemed absurd to me that Dutch people should be privy to significant information about our royal family, but British people would be prevented from knowing it too. Second, because this whole farrago has gone on long enough and caused enough damage. Frankly, it's time we were told exactly what was allegedly said, by whom, to who, when, and where it was said, in exactly what context. Otherwise, this deeply divisive, racially charged sore will continue to ooze its way into global public conscience. He's spot on the money there. This was the problem when they said it back with Oprah. What was said by who, when, what, letting it sort of seep and get out of hand makes it so much more egregious and seem more malicious. Third, because in reporting the names of their identities can no longer be held over them as some kind of blackmail threat by the Sussexes, who have deliberately fueled the furor by refusing to say who they are and what they would. Blackmail threat. I mean, it is true. It seems like Meghan and Harry have been holding this over their heads for so long. Well, we could release it now. We could put it in the Netflix special. It could be in Spare. It could be in Endgame. It was in Endgame, but now it's not in Endgame. Enough already. Enough. My own firm belief, which I'm sure will be shared by most of the British people, Piers says, neither Charles or Kate ever made any racist comment about their baby Archie, and that this is a sickening slur of their characters of two people who spent their lives in public service advocating for racial equality and justice. One of the reasons for my view is the way the initial claims have unraveled since March 7th when Oprah interview. At that time, I voraciously expressed my opinion on Good Morning Britain that I didn't believe a word of the racist allegations, not least because Meghan and Harry couldn't even agree on what year they were supposed to have been uttered. She said it was when she was pregnant. He said it was before they got engaged, or in how many conversations. As consequence of my incredulity, ITV told me I must either apologize to Meghan for disbelieving her or leave my job. So I left my job. He did. 2 days later, Prince William angrily denied the royal family was racist, but his protestations did little to dilute the hugely damaging speculation. A strange sequence of events ensued. The racism claims weren't repeated in Harry or Meghan's Netflix documentary, nor in Meghan's 12-part podcast series, nor in Harry's 150,000-word autobiography, Spare. It was as if the racist comments had never happened. Funny how that is. Finally, in January this year, Harry told ITV's Tom Branbury that Meghan had never said the royals were racist. Instead, he downgraded the crime to unconscious bias, as we've talked about, and attacked the press for falsely saying it was racism, which was as preposterous indignation as the most of his attacks on the media. But why did it take him nearly 2 years to clarify this? Why did he let Prince Philip and the late Queen die without hearing this clarification? Having endured this appalling stigma of hearing their family branded racist by their own grandson and his wife. Oh, and why did he imagine the world would simply forget that we all heard with what we heard with our own ears on Oprah? I have some questions for Omid Scobie too. How did he know who Meghan named in her private letter to Charles? She denied involvement in Endgame, but she said that about Finding Freedom. Only later to admit in court, ironically after suing a newspaper for repeating information from a private correspondence with her father, that she briefed an aide on what to tell Scobie. So I strongly suspect that neither she, Harry, or one of their friends must have told him the names, because it sure as hell wasn't the king. Their damning silence this week has diminished my suspicions. Diminished, sorry. Still going through my eye surgery. It's a little foggy. If my theory is correct, he hasn't diminished his suspicions. If my theory is correct, it means the Sussexes are still waging their vicious war on the royals, designed to denigrate the family's reputation and terminally damage the monarchy. The book itself is a travesty of so-called journalism penned by a man who can't even be honest about his age. We went through this. He's not 33, he's 38. And then he got caught lying about his private jet. Piers is repeating this. We've talked about this in our previous coverage here. This matters because it goes in the heart of the credibility of the author. Endgame spews many largely unsubstantiated claims about the royals that once again paint Meghan and Harry as heroic, oppressed, freedom fighters, battling a cruel, antiquated, and racist institution. I never thought I'd see a worse defender of the indefensible than comical Ali, Saddam Hussein's ludicrous information minister during the Iraq War, who boasted that Americans infidels were killing themselves in their hundreds. As TV viewers could hear U.S. weaponry actually in the background. But ubiquitous Omid makes comical Lisa like a bastion of veracity. He's repeating his joke from his last piece. Scobie calls William a hot-headed, power-crazed schemer who colludes with the media. The Princess of Wales, a vacuous-cold woman, burning with jealousy about Meghan and too scared to do anything but pose for photos. And Charles, a stuffy and inept old man, so entitled he makes staff iron his shoelaces, is grotesque distortion of reality. Scobie even lies about me, saying that we heard this about the chats. We know that's not the truth. Of course, there's nothing new about the royals manipulating the media. Princess Diana was a master at it, though you'd never believe it from the news series The Crown, which portrays her as an angelic, helpless victim of the beastly press. I had a lot of contact with Diana in the last 18 months of her life, including a private lunch at Kensington Palace with her and William, in which she spilled so many beans that I could have launched a rival to Heinz. She knew exactly how to exploit the media to suit her agenda. When Charles threw a 50th birthday party for Camille, when Diana was holidaying with Fayeds during the last fateful summer, Mohammed called me from his villa to ask if our photographer would be near the beach that morning. I could hear Diana in the background issuing instructions to him, and she later came to the beach in a leopard print bikini and began doing cartwheels, guaranteeing that the next day's front pages would be full of pictures of her and not of Camilla's big night. But the big difference between Diana and the Sussexes, aided by their slathering, fork-tongued cheerleader Omid, is that while she always spoke up in support of the monarchy, they're on a relationship mission to destroy it, while using their royal titles to enrich themselves by constantly evading the same privacy of their family that they profess to want to protect. I don't just find that frustrating, I find it as despicable as it is hypocritical. So there you go. Piers bringing up the fact that Diana did this, but she didn't do this to try to destroy the monarchy. She did it as revenge to Charles. Obviously, a lot of emotions, and, well, you guys can decide whether that was worth it. But why are Meghan and Harry still doing it and then denying it? That's the big problem here. And were they blackmailing the royals? It sure feels that way. They were keeping this threat under guise of, well, we'll never say it, or will we say it, when people did seem to know. But now Omid releases this under a translation error. Yeah. Well, this is the next part. Well, stay tuned. We got a lot more coming, because now Meghan and Harry are really being urged to address this. As I've said since day one of reading this book, why haven't they disavowed Endgame? If this is all nonsense, if this isn't true, and this is salacious crap that they always say is against them, why not come forward, Meghan and Harry, to put all this in the bud and say, no interest or connection to Omid. All that he said is false. Let's hear that. But you can't, can you? Because you know you gave him the info. What do you guys think? Hit that subscribe button, hit the bell for alerts, smash that thumbs up as well, and leave your comments down below. I'm so curious what you think of Piers's take here. Do you think this was blackmail? Do you agree with his rant and his takedown? Tell me down below. Check out these videos as well. Thank you guys so much for watching here on Popcorn Planet, and stay tuned for more.